We're up to Yerushalmi Demai. We're up to article page 26, Kavav, yeah? Which is page Yalacha base. In the old style pages, it's roughly your base on base. So we talk about the issue of making vegetables hefker which have not had Maisa taken. Harav lachzoim. Now lachzoim is actually a strange word. So the Rambam writes, the word lachzoim, you don't find a source for it, not in Lashon HaKodesh or Targum, actually. Anyway, Harav lachzoim ala yerek. Do you want to start cutting some vegetable leaves from bunches of vegetables? Lahakel mamasai, because it's too heavy, your big load. So you want to loosen the load a bit. Right, these are vegetables of Demai, which you bought from Ma'amaretz, and definitely Tebel. Lo yashlich, don't just throw them down, until you take Maisa first. The reason is just like you can't sell Demai, or give it as a gift, and even to a Chaver, you shouldn't really make it a Hefker, you see, and therefore you shouldn't throw it down until you take Maisa on it. I mean, some learn that the reason is we're worried and Amorais will find it and just eat it without taking Maisa on it, and they'll come to stumbling. And the pairs that were hefker before the Gemar Malacha for Maisa are potter from Maisa. So you must say the vegetable here is already tied up, it's already gone through a Gemar Malacha, it came to a stage which tithing was required, right? And now it had that obligation, and now you want to make it hefker, that doesn't remove the Maisa's obligation. I mean, if it's you bought it from an Amoretz, I mean, anyway, the transaction fixes a requirement for Maser as well. Okay, so let's see. So you're throwing this off your load, and this is not the din stump of making things hefker, until you take Maser. Okay, so let's see. You're buying vegetables from the market, let's say in Amoretz, but nimlach lahachse, and then you want to give them back to the seller. Lo yasid, don't return it until you take Maisa. You acquired it. You have that Maisa obligation. Now you want to give it back to the Amoretz. You have to take Maisa. She'ena ma'osa ela minyan. Ma'osa here means lacking. She'ena ma'osa ela minyan. All it was needing at the transaction stage was what you took. The amount, the bundles or the number of stalks, whatever. That wasn't essential to the kinyan. So the kinyan took place, and therefore you acquired it, and it's already, the transaction's gone through, and your Maisa obligation has already taken effect. If you're standing there and you're checking them to see which ones to buy, but you didn't lift it up in order to acquire it, and then you find someone else with better stuff, better quality, so you can return the first one without taking Maser, because you haven't yet acquired it. So if you're just looking and then you look around, fair enough. But if you picked it up to acquire it, and then you think, I've changed my mind, then I'm afraid you have to take Maser before you return it. Now, the first thing we learned, you can't throw vegetables of Demai be mafke just to lighten the load, right? Basically, you can't sell Demai or give it as a gift. Now we've also learned the issur to sell Demai is for those things which are sold in small measures, right? Midah Gedola, the big measures, you're allowed to sell Demai, remember? And the chiyuv to take Maser is on the person who acquires it. The Sefta actually brings machlokes between Rameh and the Chachamim. Rameh, selling Demai with a big measure is someone who always sells with a big measure. But if you don't always sell, if you sometimes always sell with a small measure, which of course is more expensive, and therefore you're meant to take the Maser, then that would depend on that. You can't sell Demai even if you're selling with a big. Depends. So the Chachamim said every person who sells with a big measure didn't have to take Maser. Remember that? That's what the Chachamim said. So what we got here now? We are the two opinions. So our Rebbe Elazar, our Mishnah forbids you to be mafkir this Demai, even though it's probably a big amount. This is the Rebbe. They didn't allow you to sell Demai with a big measure, only for the wholesaler. An ordinary person who sells Demai, even if it's a big measure, he's not allowed to sell Demai, even if he's selling with a big measure, according to Rebbe. The Chachamim argue, they said no, any person who sells a big measure is allowed to sell Demai. Right? They argue on our din of our Mishnah. According to them, you could be mafkir a big amount of Demai, just like you can sell it untithed. Rav Yochanan, he says no. Our Mishnah actually is everyone. Divrei HaKolhi. It's according to all the opinions. Do you have this text? No, you don't have it? Divrei HaKolhi. Even the Chachamim will hold that anyone's allowed to sell and give Demai with a big measure, they agree to our Mishnah's din that you can't be mafkir vegetables of Demai, even a big measure, because Shaniyahi, it might be missing in that text, Shaniyahi, because it's different, the one who finds everything, the one who's gathering the leaves bit by bit, you acquire each time a tiny bit. You're only the one who picks it up is only picking up a bit at a time, you see. So it's not like a big measure, it's like small measures. Therefore, you definitely have to take Maaseh when you throw it off. Okay? Elsewhere in Yerushalmi Nedarim, Rameir and Rabbi Yossi argue, when does something hefker leave your domain? Right? According to Rameir, as soon as you make a hefker, it's left you. According to Rabbi Yossi, it leaves your domain when someone else acquires it. You hear that? When someone else picks it up. Now, according to Rabbi Yochanan, our Mishnah can be according to Chachamim, because one who acquires, you acquire in little bits at a time. So how can it fit in with these two opinions in this argument? But let's have our pliga Rameir. Now, in other words, Rabbi Yochanan, not arguing with the view of Rameir with the law of Hefker, to Rameir, he said, Kim Jada Mafkir Davi, you made something Hefker, that's it. Yatsa Meshusa is completely left your domain, even before anyone else gets to it. The Hefker, Hefker. And it's considered hefker. So according to Rameir, I don't care that the person picks up little bits at a time. I have given it out of my domain. According to Rameir, it is hefker. Hefker, the guy threw a big amount down. Big amounts, you don't have to take master on big amounts. It's like selling a big amount, you don't have to take master. So it should be considered, it should be able to throw it down, even if it's a big amount. Who cares about the guy who's picking it up in little bits? You're throwing a big amount down. According to Rameir, as soon as you make it hefker, it's left your ownership. So the Gemara says that Rabbi Yochanan, it could fit in there for Rameir with the hefker. So he says Shaniyahi. He says, you know what? Our din of our Mishnah is a bit different. Shahazaycha, when you acquire it, zaycha bedaka, so basically the one who acquires it might acquire a bit by a time. But ena mafke begasa. But here, even the person who's throwing it hefker, he's not throwing a big amount in one go. He's throwing bit by bit each time. You understand? So again, it's like, oh, you're throwing a bit. Oh, you should have taken master on that. Because you only threw a bit. Oh, then you threw another bit. Oh, you should have taken master on that. So the Gemara wants to say, you should have done a bit by bit. But that's what he was doing. The Gemara concludes, Rabbi Yochanan can actually fit in even with Rabbi Yossi's shitta. I feel that Rabbi Yossi, let's add up ligi, our din of our mission doesn't necessarily argue with Rabbi Yossi. Now Rabbi Yossi, he was the one who said, it doesn't leave you until someone else picks it up. Someone else needs to acquire it for you to give up your ownership of it. And if no one else has acquired it, then it's not hefker yet. Based on that, when the person finds the vegetable, that's when the hefker takes place. Right? And the person who threw a big amount, he might have thrown away a big amount. When the person finds it, that's when the hefker takes place. Okay? Instead of hefker, there is a hefker of a big amount, and the person finds it. So he says shaniyahi, but still is different. Sham mafkir begasa. When you make it hefker, you make it a big amount hefker. Now, when the person acquires it, he doesn't acquire a big amount. So although it's on hefker, it appears like hefker of a midah gasa, but as far as the one who acquires it, there is a midah daka here. What does this mean? Mitzad hefker, it looks like you're giving away a big amount, okay? But as far as the one who's acquiring, there's only a small amount, because he's collecting the leaves bit by bit, and he acquires only a small bit at a time. You get that? So you might be throwing a big amount down, but he's only picking up small bits as he's picking them up. So according to Rabbi Yossi, it all depends on the one who acquires it. And with Mitzad the Zaycha, there's a small measure, therefore you have to take master on all these leaves. Because the one who acquires it bit by bit. Okay? So to summarize, he says here, according to Rameir, the wholesaler can sell Demai with big measures, and Mishnah can be every situation. So even if you threw a lot in one go, and the one who finds it got a lot in one go, not a problem. It's Demai big amount, you don't have to take master. According to the Chachamim, any person can sell Demai with a big amount. So our Mishnah is like the ones who hold, as far as Hefker, so it depends who holds what with Hefker. So if you hold like Rameir, you threw bit by bit. And if they hold like Rabbi Yossi, then even if the one threw a lot in one go, but providing the problem is because the person who acquires it in small measures when the person acquires it. Okay. Now, how actually I once went into, I don't remember it. Rabbi Yossi holds it's not hefker till someone else acquires it, right? So what happens with chametz on Pesach? You make the chametz hefker.
No, you don't make it hefker.
No, I'm talking about a case. No, you're not selling it. You're making it hefker. They never used to sell, right? I'm making it hefker. So no one else has acquired it.
So yours. Unless
the Torah took it away from you. Because no one else acquired it. But it can't be yours. It can't be yours. It's still over. I don't know. There is some discussion. I don't remember it. I don't remember. You find out anything like that.
Oh, what I mean with these people who leave a box.
You just said it after.
They leave a box of cornflakes.
No one else has acquired it.
Yeah.
So are you over on that? I don't. Anyway, if you find out, let me know. I think there's a discussion on it. Alekach yerek menashuk. One who takes vegetables from the market, but he changes his mind, he wants to return them. Don't return them until you take maser. Because all that was needed was like the number of stalks, so the transaction was virtually complete. Now, what's this word ma'usa? All that was needed, I translated it. Chizkiyama, he said ma'usa means like lacking. But the reason why you can't return it is because you've already acquired it. Because eina mechusa labalin ela binyan. All that was missing from the new owner was the number of them. That wasn't a fundamental change in the Kinyan. Case haru oisa. So how do you take maser on the vegetables before you return it? Noitel mina elyon. You take from the leaves. It means the leaves of the vegetable. But with taken, you take maser, but through them the vegetables that you're putting back. Now, 1 second. When you put the vegetables back after you've taken maser, you're going to end up putting back less than you actually took. So the Gemara says, well, taking something in a choshev, the owner doesn't care about it. Like the odd leaf is not gezel. Ka'adav Hashem bar kahana, and Mesamech Rabbi Lazar, he was supporting Rabbi Lazar when he was going. Over an al-chad kram, they came past a vineyard. Amalei, Rabbi Lazar says to Hashem bar kahana, I see chad kisem l'masad chinai. Go and bring me a splint, a little twig or whatever from the wall of the vineyard so I can clean my teeth. Right? So like toothpick, as it were. And probably the owner doesn't care. And then Rav Lazar said, no, you better not. Don't get me anything. He said, look, din IT, if you're going to bring me even one splinter, everyone will do this. And in the end, the fence is going to disappear. The whole fence will disappear. So you see, instead of din, taking something that the owner doesn't care, is not gezel. It's just a chashash that everyone will do it. That's why Rav Lazar didn't want to do it. Rav Chagai having the Samach of Zira. He was supporting Zira when he was going. The person passes by who had a big load of wooden twigs and things. He said, I give me one to clean my teeth. And then Rav Zira said, no, don't bring me anything. If I do it, everyone's going to do this. And the whole bundle of that person will disappear. Now the Gemara says the Chumrah of Rav Zira here. Lo Rav Zira kasha kol came. Not that Rav Zira was such a chassid. They were so worried that if you take one, the whole thing will disappear. Some say that Rav Zira explained himself his Chumrah. That's how some was. We're saying that, don't think of Shimon Rav Zira. We're saying, don't think of him as such a chassid. What thing to say? So some want to say that according to Pnei Moshe, Rav Zira himself explained why he did it. Okay. Ella, Rav Zira had the Chumrah Yisera, Milin di Yitzran Shamalam Nabdina. Because through this, he'll be careful to take other things where he wants to take them, where there is actually, in other situations, there is a worry that something will happen. So basically, he's holding himself back in this situation, so it will be stronger for when other scenarios come along, and he won't take what he's not meant to take, and where other situations which could cause the owners to lose out. You follow? So really, there's no chashash if you take one. But other people will say there'll be nothing left. And Zira was strict so that other people shouldn't do things where the Yetzer is wanting them to do it. Like take a nice fruit from a basket full of fruit. And there's a chashash that if other people also take fruit, the basket will be empty. Okay? Some say he's saying this about himself. Yeah. Not that he was an Adam Kasha Kol Kach, he was machmir with his word, but even the Yetzer Hara would listen to him and wouldn't seduce him, so it was right to be machmir. Alright. Now Rabbi Yochanan explains the words She'ena Ma'usa El Minyan. The first part of his biur, we had the biur of Chizkiah, and the second part he argues, Rabbi Yochanan, he said the word Ma'usa does mean lacking. He says the reason why the person who buys has to take maser before he returns it, Because given shemashach, once you've drawn the vegetable, kind of you acquired it. What was lacking in the transaction? To count it. So how are you going to take maser on these vegetables now you want to return? You have to pay for the value of one of the stalks. And from that, Masechet, you will correct the other vegetables that you are returning. So you do have to pay for that bit that you are taking maser on. Now, you have to take maser on these vegetables before you return them. But how can you return vegetables which have had maser taken? Because you're causing trouble for those who come later. You've taken maser on these vegetables. Someone else will come along, will have no idea, and they will take maser on them and then use them for being matake in other produce and this and the other. The ones who buy it will think it's demai. They'll take maser from that which is exempt for that which is obligated, and so on. So the Gemara answers, the ones that you put back, you make a separate pile for them in front of the seller, so they will stand away from the others. I suppose you notice that they're a maser lot. Now the Gemara says, why does the Mishnah says don't return it until you take maser? I mean, you could take maser after you return it. Actually, the person who buys it could take maser after he returns it as well. He says, you can correct these vegetables with your own fruit at home. Yes, you can correct them by separating maser at home for this bunch which is in the shop. Right? You'll give these vegetables back as they are. You'll take maser through peres tevel which you have at home. Why does the Mishnah says don't return them till you take maser? Now you can't tell me you can't do this, or maybe you'll forget somewhere at home. Because like in Tony, have we not learned in the price? So you are allowed to fix someone else's maasros into your fruit. Basically, you're selling to your friend fruit, which is not mu'asa, and you'll take maser after the sale with your fruit at home, which you have tevel at home, and you'll separate it on that behalf. And even if through that it will cause trouble for those coming later, maybe they'll forget that some of the fruit in his house actually is maser already. And why do we say in our Mishnah, the one who acquires it, just give it back the vegetables, you can separate maser at home. Harav, this is this takana, you can separate maasros for your friend in your fruit. Tiknu b'lekeach. They instituted that when you are selling tevel to a buyer, v'loi tiknu b'machzeh, but not when you are returning fruit to the seller. You hear that? So that institution to separate fruit at home was with regard to lekeach, when you're selling tevel to a buyer. Okay, I'll correct it, I'll cover it for you, I'll separate maasros at home. But not when it comes to returning fruit. Okay? Returning fruit, we don't want you to use your fruit at home to separate for what you're returning. Okay. And basically there's always a worry, if you'll cover your maasros of your friend in your fruit, you'll forget, you'll eat it. For a moicha, they had a certain allowance. Okay? It could be the one who's selling tevel. I mean, it's b'shoigeg. Can't afford it. All right. Let's see. If, let's say, you're buying and you see, there's another load on the side which is much better, I can return the first ones, I've not acquired it yet. So this is the Mishnah. I made a boiro. If you are standing, you're choosing which one should I take. But you haven't lifted out. Ad kadun. That's all very well by Samin, but it's the same type of vegetables. So it's partial. You see someone else which they're better quality, you can return it without taking maser because you haven't yet decided. But what about, can you return it even afilu min acher? You go and see another type of vegetables? Or do we say no? Since you've gone to take another type, the first min you'd already made your mind up on what you were going to take. It's a very good question. We have no answer.
I look at a master. If you were in a store,
yeah.
You're not going to credit until
you're not credit until you take the till, but that's what we do nowadays.
You
Agreed.
pick up the bananas.
Agreed.
Before you get to the
Agreed.
I'm not buying bananas.
Agreed. That's the transaction nowadays. That's when that takes place. Yeah, because you're not allowed to take it until you pay for it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Somewhere there's a question and answer. Ad kedum b'isam min. So that's all very well the same min. It says even minacha. You can return it. Even if you want to move to another min. Okay. You find fruits on the way, and you take them in order to eat it, and then you decide to leave them so they shouldn't get lost. Don't put them aside until you take Maser. Again, don't leave things out of your possession if Maser has not been taken. You've lifted them up to eat it, so you acquired it. Don't be mafkir Demai. Okay? If from the beginning you took the Bishul Shalai Yovdu, they shouldn't get lost, but you hadn't the intention to acquire them, possibly you don't have to take Maser. Anything where you can't sell it, Demai, like small measures, don't send it as a gift to your friend as Demai. He allows you to send your friend Tevel, even a small amount, providing you tell him this fruit has not been Meisered. So we said if you lift up fruit so they shouldn't get lost, you don't have to take Maser. The Gemara brings a brisa, you're chayav to lift up a food which is in the way so it shouldn't get ruined. You shouldn't pass by food. Right? You shouldn't pass by and just leave it there. You should take it and put it somewhere guarded. Right? So when you're lifting up the fruit, you're going to put it in a guarded place because you can't go buy food. Rabbi Yaakov that which was said very shine in the beginning, where people weren't so involved in kishuf and witchcraft, and there wasn't a chashash that the food that was left there intentionally to cause witchcraft on the people who picked it up. Now you can pass by it because we're worried of witchcraft within there. Okay, Babli also adds the chashash of witchcraft is only with whole loaves, but not with broken loaves. There was no chashash of witchcraft with them. Now, Taman Tanina, we've learnt in Baba Kama, you're moving around a mound of manure which is in the street. Someone got hurt by it. The one who moved it, left it there, has to pay damages. And also, you're not, once you've moved this manure or whatever, there's an Isur Gezel by taking it. So you put it there for people to stand on, which they used to do, and therefore there's Isur Gezel in taking it. He said, this didn't the Brisa about removing it as Gezel, but if you moved it round and lifted it in order to acquire it. Just moved it around without the intention of acquiring, just to clear the place, this din was not said. In this case, it remains Hefker and it's not Gezel. And as far as damages as well, which would let you move it around your chayav with damages, there's no difference but whether you moved it to acquire it, or you didn't intend to acquire it. Someone else was injured, you have to pay the damages. Okay? Right. Even though it was in the street. But by you moving it around, you've moved it somewhere else, and the damage caused as a result in a new place, you are chayav. Right? Then Bavli is machlokas, what's the thing where you make nizakin hefka? You leave something in the street and you made it hefka. One opinion holds your chayav with your damages, even though the thing is not in your possession anymore. But one opinion held that you're potul. And Kahana held like the opinion who said that mafkin nizakav is chayav, and that's the halacha as well. Okay. Now, Rav Kahana added, we brought from the Sefer of our Mishnah, you find fruit, you take it so it shouldn't get lost or ruined, you didn't really intend to acquire it, you can put it back without taking Maser. And Kahana said the one who was removing the manure, you're chayav with damages, even though you didn't intend to acquire it. But here we say, by lifting the fruit, you didn't intend to acquire it, you're potter from taking Maser. So on the one hand we say, you're potter from Maser. On the other hand we said, well, you didn't intend to acquire the manure, but you are liable for damages if someone gets hurt. But you didn't intend to acquire it. But then here we're saying you're potter from Maser. Do you see the question? So the one hand we're saying, what you didn't intend to acquire it, so you're potter from Maser. And the other one we said, well, you didn't intend to acquire it, but I'm afraid you're still liable for damages. So our Rav Oven, so Mark said with damages, it says, Bala ba Yishalem, the owner has to pay, the owner of the pit. Bala Nezek, Yishalem, you dig a pit in the street, it doesn't really belong to you. So Kahana says, by moving the manure in the street, you're chayav. And that's a situation where the person didn't intend to acquire it. He's not the owner. But here, aseh to aseh, you take masa on all your produce. It says, Tuvaz zaracha, mishalacha ad masa, ve'en masa mishalacherim. Ve'en ad masa mishalacherim. So you take masa of your own and not of others. So Mishnah's telling you, if you lift up fruit without the intention to acquire it, you're allowed to return it to the street without taking masa because they are not yours. Okay? Kol adam. You got me? Right. If you're not allowed to sell it as Demai, don't give it as a gift, Demai. But Rabbi Yossi allowed it, providing you tell the person. Mida daka, small measures which you can't sell. Don't send that to your friend. Mida gasa, big amounts that you can sell as Demai, you're allowed to send it as a gift to your friend as Demai. Okay? Rabbi Yossi Mate Bavadai, he said you can even give proper tevel, ben daka, ben gasa, a lot or a little. But Demai daka, he forbids you to give Demai with its a small amount. Demai. But Vada Tevel he allows, but not Demai. Now, the reason why we allowed you to sell Demai with a big amount, because remember, the one who's buying is the one who's benefiting, right? The price is cheaper. So we put master on him. Now, a gift, where the receiver earns, he gets the gift. Whether a small amount or a big amount, the one who receives it is the one getting the benefit. So then the din should be, if you receive a small amount, then the chiyuv maaseh should be on the one receiving it. He's the one getting the benefit, right? Why is it we said when you sell a small amount, you, the seller, must take Demai, but when there's the gift, the one who receives it is the one benefiting, so he should take Demai on the small amount. And why does that Mishnah say you can't give Demai small amount? Let the receiver, he's getting the benefit, let him do it. So Rabbi Vav says another reason why we allow you to sell Demai with a big amount. The importance of the seller. We want the seller to be someone significant and to have friends and to be a chover and to be trusted. And therefore we trust this seller. Right? We're giving him a hechsher, so he should take Demai. See, Tiru, we allowed him to sell Demai begasa with big amounts, and that reason applies with a gift as well. So, big amounts we're allowed to sell him Demai. So what's this? Megidurai is the importance of the seller, to support him. We are supporting him, yeah. So we allow him to sell Demai when it's a big amount. And the same idea with a gift as well. Now, the main reason though is because of the seller. Du masnisa. Also from our Mishnah you can see, like the explanation we gave, we said Rabbi Yossi Omer, Saleh Te'enim and Saleh Anavim, baskets of figs and grapes, for Kupas Shel Yarek, or other vegetables, right, of Demai, Kozman Shumaychon Achsara, if you sell them just as an estimate, Potter, you don't have to take Masa. Now, in the selling of an estimate, right, there's no clear who is the gain, who is the winner here. It's not clear who's gaining more, the buyer or the seller. And yet Rabbi Yossi allows you to sell Demai when it's an estimate. So you see, the main reason for the heter is because of the moicha. We want to support the seller. That's the main reason why we allow the seller to get away with it when not having to take maser. Okay. He sent me esrog. But he sent through the shliach, this esrog, it came from Kisrin, and then he said, and from the words of Rabbi Yossi, I learned three things with the esrog. First of all, shuhu vadai, it was definite terror. Shuhu tame, that it was susceptible to receive tama. And shaloi bar biyad acher. And Rabbi Yossi didn't have any other esrog to take maser from it, from the esrog that he sent me. So it was definitely tevel, this esrog. I learned three things from him. And all he said was, this comes in my hand from Kisrin. And he said, I learned three things. So first of all, it's tevel, and that it's susceptible to receive tumah, it's come into contact with water and liquids, and he didn't have any other esrog that he could be masakin this esrog. Now, how did he learn these three dinim? All he said was, this came in my hand from Kisrin. Where do you learn it from? He says, Shuhu Vadai, I learned this tevel, Shaperes Kisrin Vadai, because the fruits of Kisrin is definitely tevel. That's where they are. And I learned Shuhu Tameh, it's susceptible to receive tumah, because the minig of the farmers in Kisrin was Shema Bitzin Alav. They pour water on the esrog, so they pour a lot of water on the esrog. Shalai bar biyad acher, now he didn't have any other esrogim. I learned she'ilu bar biyad acher, if he had another one, he would have taken master one from the other. On the esrog that he sent me, he would have separated master elsewhere. But he asked him, why can he take master from the one he's sending? Olav, for itself. So to take off a tiny bit and send him the rest. He said, he was worried about the words of Makapara. He said, no one sells their friend half an esrog, right? You don't do that. The lomas nisi, Have we not learned in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yossi Mati Bavada, Rabbi Yossi allows you to send Tevel, Bavad, Tri idea, providing you tell him, this is proper Tevel. How did Shem Gamliel learn that Rabbi Yossi didn't have another one to take Maser? It could be, Rabbi Yossi wasn't worried about sending Tevel. And like his shit in the Mishnah, you're allowed to send Tevel, Vadai, providing you tell him. And he says, Asa Memalach, Shem Gamliel is telling you, Ava Gavdu Paliga Rabbanon. Although Rabbi Yossi argues in the Chachamim, Lo Avad Uvda Lichvasei. He never paskened based on his own view. He was an individual. He didn't want to pasken on his own view. So Shem Gamliel knew clearly, if Rabbi Yossi had another one, he definitely would have taken Maser on the other one for this one that he sent. And that's like the Chachamim, you should not send a gift of Tevel. Yeah, even though Rabbi Yossi himself held you could, but he wouldn't pasken like his own view. He would pasken like the Chachamim, that you should not send Tevel. So the fact that he sent it here, he didn't have another one. And you can't send halves, right? You can't do things in half measures. Rav Zira, he asked for Rabbi Yossi, but this esrog is from the fruits of Kisri. You don't need to take Maser on those fruits. So how's Rav Shimon Gamliel saying that he learned from Rabbi Yossi this was Tevel, definite Tevel? Right, Rebbe allowed Kisri. Remember that? He parted the fruit from Maisrus. He held Kisri was not holy through Ole Bovel. And the fruit grow there are Peres Chutz La'aretz. And they have no Chiyuv Maisrus. Now the Yerushalmi counts some fruit which was sold in Kisri which had a Chiyuv Maisrus, because we said they came from Eretz Yisrael. Remember that? But the esrog wasn't in that list. So we knew that esrogim in Kisri grew there. And therefore they are potter from Maisrus. So how are we understanding from Rabbi Yossi that it's definitely Tevel? Maybe it's completely exempt from Maisrus, because it's the ones in Kisri. And how do you know it's Tevel? Amalei says, Loi Rebbe Shehitze Kisrin. Wasn't it Rebbe was the one who allowed the fruit in Kisrin without taking Maser? And Shimon Gamliel Kaidem Rebbe Haya. Shimon Gamliel was before Rebbe. So at the time when this story happened, they still had a Chiyuv Maisrus in Kisri. It was only later on when that obligation got taken away. Okay? Halacha Dalet. Hamalech Hitav Litzchai. One who's gathering his wheat, which had been Maisered already, to grind it with the kuti. Kuti to grind it. Maybe the Amoritz will grind it. Now we're worried. They don't know about Shvius. They don't know about Maisrus. And therefore, now, when you take it there, whatever status they had before you gave it to them, they keep that status. We don't worry. Let's say you did take Maser beforehand. We don't worry that maybe the kuti swapped it. Okay? We don't, whatever the original status was, that's what remains. We don't worry maybe the grinder went and swapped them, because they're not choshev to swap them. But if you're taking your wheat lit tacha and hanachri, to the nachri grinder, who is here, not kuti, not amoritz, but a guy, the flour that the person receives from the grinder, from the guy, is demai. You have to worry that yes, he might change the produce. If you take your fruit, now it's not grinding flour, but it's your fruit. So kuti or namaretz, again, whatever status they had before, that's what status they have when you get it back. We don't say they'll swap it. But if you leave it then I'm afraid is like the fruits of the guy, and it's Chaim Maisrus, he would have swapped it. Rav Shimon says Demai, no, it's only Demai, it's still only a doubt. We don't know for sure. If he would have swapped it, he might have swapped it, he might not have swapped it. Okay, let's see on this. Yeah, Tanakama held he definitely swapped it. It's definite Tebel. But Shimon held it's a suffix if he swapped it. We don't know for sure. So therefore it's Demai. Okay, the Bavli says, even according to Tanakama and Rav Shimon, the owners have to be mafresh all the maestros, including Truma Gedola. If the guy swapped it, it's proper Tebel. According to the Tanakama, Yechayat maestros Vadai. So you have to separate Truma and give it to a Cohen for nothing. According to Rav Shimon, you have a suffix, it's Demai. It's Chiyuv Maestros is a doubt. And yes, you have to take Maser and Truma as well, but you're allowed to sell it to the Cohen. Based on the rule, he has to prove that you are obligated in giving it. And he can't prove that, there's only a doubt. So you can sell it to the Cohen. You can't eat it, the Truma, but you can sell it to the Cohen. Okay? Okay. Right, let's carry on. Now, we learned in our Mishnah, when you give wheat, which has been meiser to a kuti grinder, or Amaretz, you don't have to worry that everything's been swapped around. If your basket was swapped with the grinder, the kuti's basket, and we don't know if the one you received was the chavez or Amaretz, if we know an Amaretz was grinding there that day, you have to worry that the basket you received, we're not sure, maybe it's the Amaretz's one, and you have to take Masechet on that flour as Demai. If we don't know there was an Amaretz grinding there that day, although we know on other days there was an Amaretz grinding, we don't know if it was there that day, then the Chaver doesn't have to worry, maybe his basket got swapped with an Amaretz. We assume that it was swapped with another Chaver. If there was no Amaretz known to be there that day, you don't assume your basket got swapped with an Amaretz's basket from another day. And the flour therefore remains corrected. Now, if we know that Amaretz is there grinding on another day, now we say, don't worry about another day. Today. Was he there today? He wasn't there today. But maybe we should be worried. Maybe on that day there was an Amaretz. Maybe an Amaretz was there. Yeah, why are you not worried? Maybe on that day there was an Amaretz grinding there and the boxes got mixed up. Ma beinah, what difference is between the grinding case or the sirki? Now we have cases of Arab merchants, right? And like we've learned, if we knew that this caravan of merchants, and one day they would always sell forbidden food, one day a year, that's a sign for all the days in the year. And any food you buy throughout the year is chashash, it might be also. Maybe it was bought on that day where they sold all forbidden foods. So we should also be afraid. Maybe the Amaretz has brought wheat to the grinder. Who knows? We don't know about the grinder, whether he's a kuti. But another Amaretz might be using this grinder today, on the same day that you're using this grinder. And maybe the wheat got mixed up between your wheat and Amaretz's wheat. So the Gemara answers, now this merchant, this caravan, it could be, we know for a fact, one day they sell forbidden food. Right? We don't know when, but they always do it. One day a year they have forbidden stuff. Therefore each day we have a doubt, maybe this is the day. Maybe this is the day where they sell forbidden food. You see that? We know for sure one day a year they always have forbidden food. But here, do you know an Amaretz came today with his flour? Do you know that? You've no idea. You've no idea that Amaretz came that day. Right? The grinder's okay. The Amaretz. Did the Amaretz come? You've no idea. You're not going to look at the customer list to see who came today. Fine. Hamafke Peroisov Eitzel Hakuti. I think we will stop here, I guess. Yeah, we'll stop here. I've got a reason. Now, next week,